Today we are going to learn about double entry bookkeeping. Prior to this, you have already learned about accounting objects, accounting elements, accounting subjects, and accounting accounts. The purpose of learning is to record economic transactions, which is what we often call bookkeeping. Just like writing beautiful sentences requires correct grammar, bookkeeping also requires certain rules and methods. What we are going to learn today. Double entry bookkeeping is an important method to translate economic activities into accounting language. Double entry bookkeeping has a long history. In 1494, Italian mathematician Luca Pacioli published Arithmetic, Geometry, and Proportion, which comprehensively summarized the bookkeeping methods popular in Venice, Italy. And thus the double entry bookkeeping method was born. Pacioli is therefore regarded as the father of accounting. In the late Ming and early Qing dynasties, the Longmen accounting method appeared in China. Its key point is to divide the accounts into four categories: Jin, income; Jiao, expenses; Cun, asset; Dai, liabilities and owner's equity. Jin means income, Jiao means expenses, Cun means asset, Dai means liabilities and owner's equity. This is also the prototype of China's double entry bookkeeping method. In the 21st century, double entry bookkeeping has a clear definition. It refers to a bookkeeping method that systematically reflects the results of changes in capital movement by recording each economic transaction in equal amounts in two or more accounts. At present, the most widely used double entry bookkeeping method in the world is the debit and credit bookkeeping method, which uses debit and a credit as bookkeeping symbols. That is, the left side of an accounting account is called the debit side, and the right side is called the credit side. The debit and credit sides of all accounts record increases and decreases in opposite directions. That is, one side records an increase, and the other side records a decrease. Let's summarize it briefly with a table. Please observe this table carefully and try to use the accounting equation we learned before. Assets plus expenses equals liabilities plus owner's equity plus revenue, to find the pattern in the table. Through analysis and observation, we can easily find that the first rule of the debit and credit bookkeeping is that the asset and expense accounts on the left side of the accounting equation are debited for increases and credited for decreases. On the right side of the accounting equation, the liabilities, owner's equity and revenue accounts are debited for decreases and credited for increases. The second rule of the debit and credit bookkeeping is every debit must correspond to credit, and the debit and credit must be equal. Let's use a simple example to understand these sentences. Company A received an investment of 500,000 yuan from an investor and deposited it in the bank. This economic transaction increased the bank account of Company A by 500,000 yuan. That is, the bank deposit in the asset account increased by 500,000 yuan. According to the accounting rules 1, increases in assets are recorded on the debit side, which is 500,000 yuan. At the same time, this economic transaction enabled Company A to obtain an investment of 500,000 yuan, which means that the paid-in capital account of the owner's equity account increased by 500,000 yuan. According to the accounting rules 1, increase in owner's equity is recorded on the credit side, which is 500,000 yuan. Now, let's check whether the derivation we just made complies with Rule 2. There is a debit and a credit. The amount of both the debit and the credit is 500,000 yuan. This is the application of every debit must correspond to credit, and the debit and credit must be equal. You must have noticed that. Rule 1 can help us translate economic transactions into accounting language, while Rule 2 can help us check whether the accounting language is written correctly. The debit and credit bookkeeping contains a lot of philosophical thinking. Through studying it, you should realize that everything in nature is conserved, and the same is true for the process of learning. As the saying goes, no pain, no gain. General Secretary Xi Jinping requires college students to correctly understand their lofty ambitions and put their lofty ambitions into practical actions, so that diligent study can become the driving force of youth, and the growth of skills can become the energy of youth combat. Therefore, you must study hard and absorb more knowledge.